Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Pursuant to KRS 160270, Covington Board of Education has been called to a special meeting by Mr. Alvin L. Garrison, Secretary to the Board. The meeting will be held Thursday, January 11, 2024, 5:30 at Covington Board of Education office on 25 East 7th Street, Covington, Kentucky, 41011. The meeting will also be streamed via our website at www.covington.kyschools.us. This notice was provided to all news media, and the original copy was posted at the entrance of the school district administration building. Becky, would you please call roll?
Ms. Edelin?
Here.
Mr. Gastrite?
Here.
Ms. Huff? Here. Mr. Simpson?
Here.
Mr. Haggard?
Here.
Will the audience please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome all. I'd like to welcome everyone to this meeting. Our first order of business during this special meeting is we would like to election of our board chair. So with that being said, I'd like to call for nominations for our 2024 board chairperson.
I'd like to move to elect Tom Haggard as our board chair.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Becky, would you please call roll?
No.
Okay, sorry.
I do have to ask you to accept the nomination. Okay.
Did you accept? that?
Yes. Yes.
Becky, would you please call roll?
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Edelin?
Yes.
Mr. Gastrite?
Yes.
Ms. Huff?
Yes.
Mr. Haggard?
Yes.
Our second order of business is election of the vice chair for 2024. I guess at this point, Mr. Board Chair, I think you can make the call for nominations.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Garrison. Thank you to my colleagues for your trust in me. Very much appreciated. I'd like to entertain a motion for a nomination for vice chair for the year 2024.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Stephen Gastrite for vice chair.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Becky, you call the roll, please.
Ms. Edelin?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Gastrite?
Yes.
Ms. Huff?
Yes.
Mr. Haggard?
Yes. Congratulations, Mr. Garrison.
Thank you.
Next order of business, we need to appoint our board treasurer. So I recommend that Director Annette Birchie be appointed as board treasurer. Any discussion?
I'll entertain a motion to appoint Director Birchie as the board treasurer.
I will submove.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Becky, you call the roll, please.
Ms. Edelin?
Yes.
Mr. Gastrite?
Yes.
And Ms. Huff?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Haggard?
Yes.
Next, we need to appoint our school board attorney, and I recommend the Adams Law Firm for 2024.
Can I entertain a motion to approve Ms. Meehan and Adams Law as our school board attorney for 2024?
I will submove.
Is there a second?
Second.
Becky, you call the roll, please.
Ms. Edelin?
Yes.
Mr. Gastrite?
Yes.
Ms. Huff?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
And Mr. Haggard?
Yes. Wonderful secretary too.
Thank you for that. We also have to appoint a board secretary, and I hate to recommend myself, but I'm gonna have to recommend Alvin Garrison as board secretary.
Is there a motion to approve Mr. Garrison as our board secretary?
I move to approve Mr. Garrison as our secretary.
I second.
Gastrite is a second. Becky, you call the roll, please.
Ms. Edelin?
Yes.
Mr. Gastrite?
Yes.
Ms. Huff?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Haggard?
Yes.
Next, we have committee selections.
Are your board member committee selections are in your packet? I know I reached out and spoke with each of you to see what committees you would want to do and what your preferences were, try to match that up. Additionally, what we'll be approving also is our creation of our policy committee that we've talked about. That'll include 2 members, along with standing members would include two of us, superintendent, and our board attorney. And then we'll rotate content experts in with us as we review different sections of our policy manual. Everything look good on committees? Everything is good. Can I have a motion to approve our committee selections for 2024?
I will move to approve the committees and member selections for 2024.
I second.
Becky, you call roll, please.
Ms. Edelin?
Yes.
Mr. Gastroy?
Yes.
Ms. Huff?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Hager?
Yes.
Our next item of business is selection of our school calendar, our board calendar for the year. And you have the recommendation. I just have one thing I want to bring to the board's attention. I think the late July meeting, I think all of our meetings call for 2 board meetings per month. The late July might be a little problematic because that is Kentucky Association of School Administrators annual conference. And so not only do I go to that, but several administrators throughout the district also attend that. So that would be something we want to think about. But other than that, I think everything else, Mr. Haggard has worked with district to and Becky to create a calendar that I think should do us well.
In the past July, we only had one.
Yeah, so as I told all of you, we're trying to go to a true informational meeting at the beginning of the month and a business meeting at the end of the month. I worked with Becky to get 2 meetings each month, so we can stick with that kind of cadence and how we do business. I think, to Mr. Garrison's point, if we get a little bit later in the year, realize we need to move that meeting date to a Wednesday or something like that. We can do that. We do have 1 meeting currently scheduled for a Wednesday, and I think that's when all of you will be at the COSPA conference. Is there a motion to approve board meeting schedule for 2024?
I move to approve the board schedule for 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Becky, call roll, please.
Mr. Gastroy?
Yes.
Ms. Edelin?
Yes.
Ms. Huff?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Hager?
Yes.
And our final item is to approve the Board of Education travel. So I recommend that the board approve your travel for the year of 2024.
I move to approve the travel for the year of 2024.
I'll second.
Becky, call roll, please.
Mr. Gastroy?
Yes.
Ms. Edelin?
Yes.
Ms. Huff?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Hager?
Yes. I think that concludes our business for the organizational meeting. If there is no objection, we'll stand adjourned for 3 minutes, and then we'll pick up right at 6 o'clock for our next meeting. Thank you. I'd like to call this meeting of the Covington, special meeting of the Covington Board of Education to order. Becky, we call the roll, please.
Ms. Eland?
Here.
Mr. Gashright?
Here.
Ms. Huff? Here. Mr. Simpson?
Here.
Mr. Haggard?
Here. Pursuant to KRS 160270, the Covington Board of Education has been called to this special meeting by Mr. Alvin Garrison, Secretary to the Board. The meeting will be held today, January 11th, 2024, at 6 p.m. at the Covington Board of Education, located at 25 East 7th Street in Covington. The meeting will also be live streamed via our website at covington.kyschools.us. This notice was provided to all news media, and an original copy was posted at the entrance of the school district administration building on the date below. Discussion and action at this meeting will be limited to the lines contained in the agenda. Excuse me. Welcome, everyone. We'd love to see a full house at our meetings. If everyone could please take a moment to silence your cell phones or any smart devices you might have, it would be greatly appreciated. We'll start this meeting with public input tonight. Members of the public may address the board during the period set aside by the board without submitting an item for the agenda. No action shall be taken during this portion of the meeting on issues raised by employees or the public unless deemed an emergency by the board. Please note that comments are asked to refrain from personal remarks in which an individual is named. Comments are limited to 2 minutes unless determined by the board chair. Critical comments or complaints are processed through the district's complaint procedures. Questions and concerns will be addressed by the board through various venues, including but not limited to the district website and email. First up tonight, we have Ms. Diana Seifel here to speak. As you come to the mic, please introduce yourself and state your address for the record, please.
There was a question, do we need to state our full address?
Yes.
Okay. Not for me. My name is Diana Seifel. I'm at 1618 East McMillan in Cincinnati. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Tom Ellis Athletic Memorial Foundation, and we are seeking approval for construction to begin on the new softball field on the Holmes campus. Upon the completion of renovation at Mikan in 2015, with fairness and safety in mind, the Team Foundation immediately recognized the need to renovate and possibly relocate the softball field for our female athletes. We used our own funds to cover the cost, over $7,500, to determine if relocating the softball field was feasible. And once the possibility was realized, we committed $150,000 to the project and an additional $25,000 towards lights, with the contingency that the field be moved to the Holmes campus. After approval from this board in September of '22 to proceed with proposed campus projects, including construction of new softball field, the Team Foundation began actively seeking donors and funds to help aid in the financing of the new field. Thus far, we have raised over $12,000, and our past Vice President Dave Mom, in his will, made a donation of close to $180,000 for a new softball field. We believe that honesty and transparency are crucial when asking for financial support from our loyal community. We want to be clear, we would have never asked for those funds from our donors and alumni without your approval on those projects. We are concerned that some feel the need to choose between academics or athletics. The Team Foundation exists to support the student athletes of Covington Independent Public Schools. We refuse to pick one. Neither exists without the other, and we choose to support the whole. Personally, I've learned a lot of lessons from our former athletic director, Stan Steidel. He was a fierce advocate for the student athletes in our district, elementary age to high school. He set the standard that none of our student athletes would have a need or want that we couldn't fill together as a district. Most importantly, he taught me that good kids deserve good things. Our student athletes leave school and can face a lot of uncertainty. Let that never be said when they step on our campus. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Next person signed up for comment is Ms. Allison Hager. Can you introduce yourself and say your address for the record, please?
Allison Hager, Independence, Kentucky, and I am here as part of the Tom Ellis Athletic Memorial Foundation and as a former Holmes High School softball player. Holmes High School has a long and rich history of equity and inclusion for their female athletes. Since the creation of Title IX, not one complaint has been brought to the KHSAA, the Kentucky High School Athletic Association, regarding unequal treatment or practices at Holmes. We fear that the reputation of our athletic department is at stake. Due to the tardiness of the softball field construction, our district is now at risk of facing Title IX violations and severe penalties. At the last Board of Education meeting, it was mentioned that the coaches' pay needed to be investigated to ensure that it was equitable across the various sports. What was not mentioned, however, was the equity for the athletes, especially the females, the softball players. The lack of equal and/or equitable opportunities for the female softball team as related to the male baseball team has been on the radar of the KHSAA in their Title IX reviews for at least 7 years, with the KHSAA formally issuing a Title IX deficiency in their most recent report. This deficiency could have been avoided if movement towards an equitable softball field had occurred. At this time, we do not know the effects of the Title IX deficiency. However, Title IX violations can and have resulted in significant monetary penalties, which could include $1 million, shutting down of the similar mail program, or etc. These type of penalties are devastating and hopefully will be avoided with movement and construction of a new softball field. In October of 2020, preliminary drawings of a softball field were developed. In January of 2022, a meeting was held with Board of Education members regarding the campus project and softball field. In September 2022, the initial BG 23-062 was approved for the campus project and softball field. In October of 2022, the owner-architect contract was presented to and approved by the local Board of Education. In December 2023, the architect finalized the updated cost and project scope. We are asking you to move the project forward and begin construction on the Holmes campus for a softball field equitable to the boys' baseball field, and help us understand what more we need to do to move the project and construction forward. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Last person we have signed up for public input tonight is Mr. John Jennings.
I don't need to speak.
All right, thank you.
They did it very well.
Awesome. Thank you all for being here. Moving into the next items of our agenda, district recognition and presentations. I think we have some student recognition. Ms. Peach and her team, that's right here. So.
Good evening, board members. I am honored to have the privilege of recognizing some of our incredible students tonight. At Glen Oaks Wing, we recently rolled out the portrait of a learner to our students and discussed what each of the competencies looks like during our morning assembly. As you all know, this portrait serves as a collective vision that articulates our district's aspirations for all of our students. The 7 competencies are resilient learner, effective communicator, critical thinker, compassionate citizen, lifelong contributor, conscientious collaborator, and ambitious achiever. We explained to students that we will be choosing one student that represents each competency each month during the school year. Over the past few weeks, teachers have submitted nominations across the school out of all of our 400 students for the students that they think best represent each competency. Then Mrs. Peach and I looked through all of those nominations and chose one student per competency. And those students are with us here tonight. They are our first students that will receive our Portrait of a Learner Awards. So students, when I call you, please come up while I'm talking about you, okay? Our first student was Javante Cotsville. Javante, come on up. Javante Cogswell was chosen as our resilient learner. Javante is new to Glen Oaks Wing this school year. Since his first day of school, he has always worked hard to complete his assignments in the classroom to the highest level, even when they get difficult. His hard work has paid off and consistently pushed him to the proficient or distinguished level on his assessments. During his reading group, Javante also consistently works hard to improve his fluency. When he misses a word or makes a mistake, Javante never gives up. He asks his teacher for help or clarification, and he helps those around him sound out the words. Javante will be able to overcome any challenge in life with his incredible determination and resilience.
That's right.
Next up, this student was not able to make it tonight, but we are still going to recognize her, is Priscilla Mejia Cabrera. She was chosen as our effective communicator. Priscilla always stays positive and calm, which allows her to communicate clearly with anyone around her. No matter the situation, her ability to keep the peace allows her communication skills to stand out amongst her peers. Recently, during group work, both of her partners were very upset about a question that they got wrong and they wanted to give up. Priscilla found out what was wrong with their group's answer and calmly explained to them both what needed to be fixed. They all ended up completing this question, but it would not have been possible without the clear communication of Priscilla as their leader. Priscilla's communication skills will help to lead any team with clarity and direction, whether in the classroom or at a future job. Congratulations to Priscilla. Next up, we have Kevin Perez Mauricio. Come on up, Kev. Oh, you're gonna speak tonight? I trust that you would. Kevin Perez Mauricio was chosen as our critical thinker. In the STEM classroom, Kevin shares his own knowledge of different phenomena and asks questions that deepen class discussions and enrich the learning environment for all. As a member of the LEGO robotics team, Kevin quickly assessed which missions gained the most points and created arms to add to the robot to successfully accomplish the tasks needed for those specific missions. He's also extremely talented at coding during LEGO robotics. Kevin wrote some codes that took the least amount of time and were the most effective at completing the challenges, which allowed the team to get the full points and contributed to their success at their regional competition. And with Kevin's critical thinking skills, they made it to the state competition again this school year. So, yeah, Kevin's critical thinking skills will continue to help him solve any problem both in the classroom and in the Covington community. Congratulations. Next up, we have Mila Meadows. Mila Meadows was chosen as our compassionate citizen. Mila always shows compassion to all her fellow students, no matter their age. She makes sure to include any other students that are sitting by themselves in the cafeteria or those that may need a little extra help in the classroom. Before a yearbook club, she regularly volunteers to stay and help the younger students during win time in clubs. During the school day, whenever she completes her work, she takes the initiative to help struggling students to understand the material being covered. When doing partner work, she seeks out classmates who she knows will likely struggle with that content or assignment so that she can help them. Mila never gives them answers though, and she's very patient. Mila truly cares about how she makes other people feel. There's not a single student or teacher in our building that walks away from an interaction with Mila without a smile on their face. Congratulations to Mila. Next up, we have Edith Spisak. These two are best friends and both honored here tonight, so very exciting for them. Edith Spisak was chosen as our lifelong contributor. Throughout her time at Glen Oaks Wing, Edie has always been eager to learn and try new things, from joining new clubs after school, such as yearbook club and academic team, to trying new stunts and cheerleading as a flyer. Name a club or sport at Glen Oaks Wing, and Edie has probably given it a try. Edie takes constructive criticism and pushes herself to be better in each of these activities. In addition, she finds ways to give back to our school and our community. For example, she gives back by capturing special moments for our yearbook for our families to enjoy. She does this throughout the school day and even on her own time after school during sporting events and family events. With a citizen that continuously tries new things and gives back like Edie, the Covington community has a bright future ahead. Next up, we have a kindergartner being recognized, Miss Ruby Harvey. Ruby Hardy was chosen as our conscientious collaborator. Ruby consistently works well with all students in her classroom and throughout the school. When working in a small group for guided practice, she is a strong and effective leader that helps everyone accomplish the task at hand. She is able to take charge in a calm and collected way that makes everyone in her group feel comfortable sharing their thoughts and ideas. Ruby does a great job keeping her group accountable so that all work is completed in a timely manner and at the highest possible level. Oftentimes, our kindergartners find it challenging to find their voice at a new school with new friends, but Ruby works diligently to ensure that all students feel comfortable working together and sharing their ideas. Ruby's leadership and collaboration skills will surely take her to great heights in whatever she may choose to do in life. Way to go, Ruby. And last but not least, we have Jonah Randall. Randall was chosen as our ambitious achiever. Throughout his 3 years at Glen Swing, Jonah has consistently gone above and beyond our academic expectations. He is typically the first student to finish his assignments, often with answers even better than our teacher's samples. Seriously. If a time occurs where Jonah receives feedback on his work, he gladly accepts the challenge to push himself further. When he finishes his assignments, Jonah always asks for more learning opportunities, especially in math. On assessments, his scores are typically at the top of his class. As a second grader, he is in a reading group at the 4th grade level. In extra math, he is currently working on expanded multiplication, which our intermediate students are working on. I can only imagine what academic achievements Jonah will accomplish by the time he completes his educational career at Glen Swing.
Thank you, students and families.
Well, Ms. Beach, before our students start to exit, I want to invite them to the stage for a picture with our board chair and myself. Becky, if you don't mind putting our attributes back up there, first slide. Students, if you will join me up here, if you have a certificate in your hand, please come forward and join me for a photo shoot. You deserve it. Show off your photo. Yeah, why don't we stand on these two so that you can see what you all did right now.
Yes, they are.
She probably needs that.
Here you go, baby.
Smile, guys.
You take my glasses.
You're welcome.
Wildcats, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Wildcats.
Great job.
One more thing. You want me to stand up there while we? Okay. For
Congratulations. Congratulations. I'm so proud. Okay. Yeah, all of it. Great job. Great job. One more round of applause.
You can go find your parents.
And then before we move on to our staff and volunteer recognition, we have a little surprise for our board for Board Recognition Month. So this is a little video that our students put together for you.
Thank you for being a friend.
I did not touch
If you just. If you just click that, it should work.
No. It did her?
Medium.
Try playing with Windows Media Player.
Yeah.
You're not leaving until this video plays.
It's really cute.
Somebody out there in the audience?
Oh,
Want to come forward?
I know.
And anything else out?
The board may have to watch this at a later date unless. Let's give her a round of applause.
All right, well, while they're working on that, let's go ahead and do some staff recognition while everyone's still here. Ms. Edlin, would you like to recognize our certified employee of the month, please?
Absolutely. All right. We would like to nominate Mrs. Caitlin Emery for Certified Employee of the Month. Is Ms. Emery here? Ms. Emery joined the Glennis Swing family as a third grade math teacher 5 years ago and now teaches fifth grade math. Ms. Emery is a natural teacher, and you can always find her making learning fun and engaging in her classrooms. She forms strong relationships with her students and pushes them to succeed at the highest levels. Mrs. Emery is a leader on our math team and yet still goes above and beyond to continue to learn and grow in her profession. In her classroom, Miss Emery makes math fun. All right. I think we're gonna keep going. Miss Emery makes math fun and engaging, sometimes so much so that her students don't even realize the high level of rigor she's implementing. Her student products are always of the highest quality and exemplary of work expected from Glennis Swing students. She mixes the way business is done at Glennis Swing with fun and creative teaching strategies, which results in students who enjoy coming to school and excellent academic results. In her first year in fifth grade, Mrs. Emery's students achieved a 75% proficiency on KSA, a true testament to her natural teaching abilities and desire to push her students to their fullest potential. Miss Emery is also the vertical 3rd through 5th grade math team lead. She is a born leader, and you can often find her in other math teachers' classrooms, giving them feedback and coaching them on how to improve their skills. Not only does she want to succeed, but she also wants her peers to succeed. She understands the importance of being a team player and the vitality of collaboration. This past summer, Mrs. Emery attended the Model Schools Conference to help improve her abilities in the classroom and then pass on her knowledge to others. Whether it's leading in her classroom or supporting in another classroom, Mrs. Emery is an asset to Glennis Swing. For this reason and so many others, she is truly deserving of the Certified Employee of the Month recognition.
Mr. Simpson, will you please recognize the classified employee of the month?
William Piner. Yep. We would like to nominate Mr. William Piner for Classified Employee of the Month. Mr. Piner has been a dedicated employee at Glennis Swing for the past 10 school years, first as an instructional assistant and now as our Community Learning Center coordinator. Mr. Piner consistently goes above and beyond to do whatever is needed for our students, parents, and staff. Mr. Piner joined our team as an instructional assistant 10 years ago. He worked with small groups of students who needed extra support, and because of his patience and skillful instruction, these students always succeeded at the highest levels. Last January, Mr. Piner applied to be our CLC coordinator. While we hated to lose him as an instructional assistant, we knew he would excel as our after-school leader, and nevertheless, he has taken his new role and ran with it. He has doubled our enrollment in the after-school program, brought in a new community partners for our students, such as morning yoga through Busy Being Yoga, and provides model programming for others to observe and learn from so that they can duplicate his results. He understands the importance of the extended school day and makes it the most beneficial and worthwhile time for our students. We mentioned how we did not want to lose Mr. Piner during our school day as an instructional assistant. Well, he continues to come in during the school day to work with groups of students and supports teachers however needed. He is always willing to jump in and do whatever task needs attention. Mr. Piner is the definition of a team player. As you can see, Mr. Piner is a dedicated, irreplaceable member of Glen Oak Swing staff and is deserving of the Classified Employee of the Month recognition. I should have brought in
And last but not least, Mr. Castro, will you please recognize our volunteer of the month?
So the volunteer of the month is Mrs. Chelsea Brown. Ms. Brown. Yeah, this nomination hits home for me because I actually got involved first as a site-based member for at 6th District when my kids were there. So I think this is great. Mrs. Brown joined the Glen Oak Swing family last year when her son started kindergarten. Since then, she has gone above and beyond to find ways to get involved and give back to our school. This year, Mrs. Brown became a parent member of our SBDM council. Her insight as a parent is invaluable to our council, providing the perspective that only a parent of a student at Glen Oak Swing can give. Her viewpoint and ideas are refreshing and inspiring as we review data, revise policies, and allocate resources and funds. In addition to serving on our SBDM council, Mrs. Brown, in conjunction with her church, has adopted the staff at Glen Oak Swing. Every month, Mrs. Brown provides snacks, lunch, or other pick-me-ups for our staff. She has stocked our teachers' lounge with snacks and drinks, provided dinner for the staff during parent-teacher conferences, and most recently donated sweet treats during our staff holiday celebration. Mrs. Brown is always willing to volunteer whenever possible. She passes out goodie bags and treats to students during Halloween walk-a-thon and help distribute Christmas gifts to families during our annual Angel Tree event. Having her extra hands is very much appreciated and truly valued. But even more importantly, it is her positive spirit and genuine warmth that makes her irreplaceable as a parent volunteer at Glen Oak Swing. As you can see, Mrs. Brown is a devoted and selfless member of the Glen Oak Swing community and is deserving of the Volunteer of the Month recognition.
Awesome. Well, thank you, and congratulations to everyone who was recognized. I think we have our videos queued up and ready to go. Let's take a look.
Thank you for being a friend. Thank you for taking care of our teachers.
Wow, thank you all. Well, no, thank you. We do appreciate that. We appreciate this amazing banner from Glen Oak Swing up here in front. So as we now move into the next part of our meeting agenda, we're moving into informational items. I'll invite all of our students and their families who are here. If you would would like to stay, we'd love to have you. This would be a great point to exit. We'd also invite you to take part in some of our punch and cupcakes out in the hallway on your way out. And so we'll stand adjourned for just 2 or 3 minutes to let people file out, and then we'll get started with Ms. Peach and her update. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it.
But seriously, take some cupcakes.
Technology.
Like I said, it's great.
Bright and early. Bright and early, Mr. Office. Bye. Bye, Elliot. Bye, Esme. Bye. Bye, Zachary. Bye, Ted. Yeah, bye, girlfriend. Bye. Thank you. Bye, Jonah. Bye. Thank you so much for coming.
Right? I guess we have.
Let's make sure.
All right, we'll come back together. As I said, we're going to move into informational items tonight. Ms. Peach is here to give us the annual update.
Thank you.
Your show.
All right. Thank you guys for having us tonight. I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into our presentation. We're going to start tonight with our school data snapshot. On the far left, you'll see the data source. In the middle column is our last school year data, and then far right is this school year. So starting with our kindergarten readiness, this is measured through Brigance that's given at the beginning of the year. So last school year, our kindergartners entered at 30% ready. This school year, we're at 49% ready. Moving down, we have our third grade reading data. I gave you 2 data points there. The first is KSA, and then underneath that, last year they took STAR CBN, which is a universal screener. And then this year we switched to DIBELS, so they're different screeners, but similar data. So last year they started the year at 43% and ended the year at 71% benchmark. This year they entered at 73% benchmark, and obviously we don't have end of year data, but it's looking promising. Underneath that, we have our average daily attendance. We jumped up about 2% there last year to this year. New staff percentages, last year we were at 16% new staff. This year we're at 18%. Teachers with less than 5 years experience, we went from 52% last year to 46% this year. And then finally, I have the family engagement data. And this data is to this point of the year right now. So last year we were sitting at 75% at this time. This year we're at 84%. I do want to mention that last year we ended the school year at 95% of our families attending at least one family event, which is above our goal in our strategic plan, which you guys know is 90. So we did pass that goal. And also this data doesn't include some of our biggest events of the year, which is like our Crafts with Cops, our spring festival. So it's looking promising. This is just a kind of snapshot broken down by grade level. So you can kind of see our events and our different grade levels, enrolled versus attended. And again, it doesn't include all of our events. This is from October. Next is what we're most proud of. So what we're most proud of is our systems, the systems that we have in place at Glen Swing. Some of these systems include MTSS, our PLCs, our data analysis process, feedback loop, for formative assessments, our walkthrough and coaching model. We
think that, our systematic and consistent way of doing things attributes to our success. We don't really change. Most of this presentation, I didn't really change from last year, 2 years ago. We just kind of keep doing the same things. And I think that that attributes to our success. Even with our teacher turnover, if you look at our data, we maintain or increase achievement at all levels. School focuses for the year, we have 3. These were developed through our Play and Do Study Act that we developed in collaboration with district leaders. We have 3 targeted 3 areas for growth. First is active participation. If you go into our classrooms at Glen Oswing, all of our students are engaged, but we want to take it to the next level of proactively engaged, where the students are taking ownership of their engagement and really, using rubrics or understanding that there's no opting out and knowing that they could be called on at any second. So just really taking it from engaged to proactively engaged. Next is student work analysis, follow-up plan. So our teachers are constantly looking at student work, but we want to, again, tighten it up a little bit to where the teachers have a clear next step going back into their classroom. A clear, this is how I'm going to reteach it, this is what I'm going to do differently, so they know how to take their students to the next level. And then lastly, unit planning feedback system. This is more for Ms. Story and myself. We wanted a more systematic way to keep ourselves organized and intentional when it comes to lesson plan feedback. Since we do have new teachers, new teams, we kind of tiered our focuses with our lesson plans. Next, my favorite part, our 30-second sales pitch. I'm not going to read it this year, but it is still 30 seconds. I just wanted to highlight a few things that I did tweak a little bit that are exciting for us. We were rated a blue school this year, which is very exciting. We moved from green to blue. We're also in the top 7% of elementary schools in the state, and we are the #1 elementary school in Kenton County, which is exciting for us. Also, something that I don't believe I've shared with the board, I think I might have mentioned this to Mr. Haggard once, but currently we have 59 students at Glen Oswing that are on a transfer. So that means 59% of students, or 59 students have chosen to come to Glen Oswing. Next is promoting GOS in the community. We have our annual open house to kick off the school year. We also have several family nights throughout the year. We partner with a lot of community businesses and organizations through Adopt a Class and service learning projects. In the past, I've mentioned we partner with our friends at Pieselberg Neighborhood Association through Advisory Council, Center for Great Neighborhoods, Carnegie, social media. Recently, this is pretty cool that I figured you guys might like, but Nancy Knopf, that name sounds familiar to anybody. She works for the Kenton County Library. She's actually the granddaughter of Glen Oswing, and she reached out to us, and she's putting together a whole thing at the Kenton County Library talking about Glen Oswing, and she actually was at our school today filming the introductory to her project that's going to be at the Kenton County Library. So that was pretty cool. So community partnerships is something, I mentioned this again last year, that it's one of the top things that I'm proud of. I truly feel like we have great community support and community partnerships. School culture is next. So for starting with attendance, how we promote 100% attendance, we have a couple tier 1 things in place. For example, we send home letters at the beginning of the year, just so our parents are aware of our attendance policy in the first place, that they get 10 letters, that what time school starts and when they're considered tardy, just so that they're clear from the start. Also this year, I feel like we've had great collaboration between the school and the district attendance team to really break down any barriers. We're working very closely with them. And we also have weekly incentives for classes with the highest attendance percentage in our Wildcat Friday morning assembly. We recognize those classes, they get a little pencil. Impact survey data. So this is the survey, as you know, that the staff takes every other year. So the new data, they just took it this year. So that data will be released in February. So we're anxiously awaiting that. We'll share that, we'll analyze it with staff to determine some next steps. The past data, the last time our staff took the survey was a month after I started as principal. But I still, I mean, we analyzed it. I set some goals for myself as a new principal. Obviously, our lowest scores are our top priority. And then lastly, we have our quality of school climate and safety survey. This data, once it was released, we shared it with the staff. We looked at it, analyzed it. We actually recently gave the survey again to our 3rd through 5th graders, so that we can kind of see a new group of students, we have some new teachers. So we are going to analyze those results and try to intervene and progress monitor some of our lower scoring areas. But proactively, we have our SRSS scores that we're analyzing. We have Tier 1 taught by classroom teachers. More classroom guidance this year is huge. More small groups targeted based off of that SRSS scores. Next is PLCs and collaboration. Honestly, PLCs and collaboration is so ongoing and natural at Glen Oaks Swing at this point that, we don't really even call it PLCs anymore. It's just kind of how we do things. Our teachers constantly are meeting, they're constantly looking at data, they're constantly problem solving. I mean, it's just how we operate. So, but beyond the classroom, I feel like I talk a lot about teachers and data, but like beyond the classroom, our student support team is constantly meeting. They're constantly trying to break down barriers, mental health services. We have so many partnerships to get students into school-based counseling. So it's kind of like a wraparound approach, and we're always talking, always collaborating. It's just how, it's just our culture. Next is teacher retention. So this year for our new and newer staff, we've developed a much more robust mentoring system. In the past, it's kind of been more laid back because I didn't want to create one more meeting or one more mandatory thing. But this year, we've kind of created some monthly meetings with the mentor and the mentee. They have a kind of a checklist to where they can meet on specific things, like prior to parent-teacher conferences, they meet to kind of figure out how to run a parent-teacher conference. So it's more targeted and strategic mentoring system. For our veteran staff, just providing them with leadership opportunities, with autonomy in their classroom. But truly, it's our PLCs that retain our staff. I believe they feel supported by their team, by their administration, and just our collaborative approach. And I also put in there on this slide that despite our teacher turnover, we do continue to maintain or increase our proficiency. Next is professional development. Staff has had very positive feedback on professional development this year. As well as last year since starting the PD Academy. That's been very popular. Also, the teacher planning days, the equivalency days have been fantastic. So we're very appreciative to see this on a calendar, hopefully, for the next 2 years. And yeah, we monitor, we get their PD plans as principals. So we kind of monitor what they're attending and look for that growth, depending on the teacher or staff member. Curriculum development, we're still training teachers on that as needed. Prior to the school year, new staff attended UPO and unit planning PD through the PD Academy, and also new teacher training during the school year. We are constantly giving feedback on lesson plans in classrooms, monitoring their planning process. Technology is last. We're still one-to-one with technology for all students, iPads and Chromebooks. Those are some of the tech platforms and programs that we use. The only addition this year is Amplify Science, which has been amazing. It's more of a hands-on approach to science, which our students love. The rollout continues to go smoothly, and it's naturally incorporated into all of our classrooms. And I believe that is all I have.
Thank you. Great presentation today. I'll open up for questions or comments. I'll start with Ms. Easley.
I actually just have one. Your kindergarten readiness, what efforts did you have in place to help increase that? Or did you just find that you...
Yeah, I that's all the bigs and wherever they come from. We administer the brigance, but prior to that, we don't really have much to do with their kindergarten readiness. We will do anything that the preschool tells us to do to get the kids to come to bigs. or enroll in any type of pre-kindergarten program, but no, that's all prior to coming to us.
Mr. Gastro?
Yes, thank you. Hey, #1 school in Kent County?
Yeah,
Kidding me?
I shed some tears, I guess, I'll admit it. It was a proud moment.
That's awesome. I don't know if we've shared that fact with the city, but I mean, it's something really to be proud of, so great job, great job. Okay, so again, on kindergarten,
Mhm.
you mentioned Biggs. Do you know what percentage of your kindergartners are coming from Biggs?
52% of our kindergartners are from Biggs.
That's
Well,
Great.
I should say that 52% of our students from Biggs came ready or ready with enrichment.
okay.
Yes. I'm not sure the percentage of students of our kindergartners who are from Biggs.
You have, how many kindergartners, you think? 60?
70?
70?
Approximately 70.
Okay. So it would be good to know how many you think transition from Biggs, because I think it's important. We know Biggs is doing great work.
Yes.
And we don't, I think we've tracked a little bit how many of those kids at Biggs transition into our kindergartens. So it'd be something that we'd be interested in, or at least I would be interested in looking
That's
at.
approximately 44 students for Biggs.
44 of the 70.
Correct.
And then of the 49% that were ready, 52%. 49% were ready, 52% of that 49% were from Biggs.
Super. All right, thanks. And then the other question I had, you mentioned that you had 59 kids who chose
Yes.
Gleno Swing, so they're outside of catchment, I presume?
So they're from, that combines students who are from Covington schools that could go to 6th or 9th or John. That is 11 of the transfers are from out of district, so from Boone County, Kent County.
That was my question, super. As impressive that we have a product people were, because they'd be paying tuition then, is that right?
No, we don't charge them
We don't charge
tuition,
them
no, it's just a simple form that I,
Okay. All right. But our kids pay tuition to go out to the other
yes.
districts.
It's, I think it's dependent on the school, I've had a couple parents say, yeah.
Just curious. Those are all my questions. Thank you so much. Great job. Keep up the great work.
Mr. Simpson?
Awesome work. I think the #1 school in Kidden County, I think that deserves a sign for the school, right? A banner.
I haven't gotten a banner as principal. So.
Just
I'll talk about that in the budget committee.
Right.
Hey, I'm part of that
That's
committee,
right,
so.
I wanted just some examples of your service learning projects. I was really interested just to hear just some examples.
Sure. Actually, Miss Young is here. She heads up our biggest service learning project is our Crafts with Cops event that we have in December. So service learning in a nutshell is where students provide a service, but they're also learning at the same time. So for they could be learning about community helpers while simultaneously raising money for a community helper organization. So Crafts with Cops is one of our biggest events of the year. It's in collaboration with the Covington Police Department, and the police come to the school, the students come, they have hot chocolate, Santa comes, they do crafts with the police officers, and all the money that's raised goes back to the Sirens with Sleigh Bells program, which is when the police officer will shop with a student who might need some Christmas help. So that's one of our biggest ones. Our 4th graders collect pop tabs for the Ronald McDonald House. I'm trying to think of some other ones.
That's all. I just
Okay,
made a couple
yeah.
examples, just curious.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. You keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Mrs. Huff?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. A great presentation and congratulations on being #1 in Kent County and #7 in the state. Your one-on-one technology, do your students, are they able to take their devices home?
We don't have them take them home, but we wouldn't be against it. We just don't do it, if that makes sense. Like they don't have to, there's no reason for them to take them home. We don't do much homework. And there's really no reason to take them home. So that's why we don't, but they could if needed, like if we knew we were gonna go NTI or, you know.
Determine whether.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we're not against it. We just don't really have a reason to.
I'm glad to hear that your kids don't have too much homework?
Yes, no, I don't think anyone does homework.
Okay. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
A banner, Mr. Gibson.
Well, Mrs. Huff stole my question. We're of one mind tonight with Mrs. Huff, so it's great to know about technology. I also think, I just want to give some pride. I think your team does a great job on social media. It's always great stuff about Glen Swing. I know, obviously we recognize Mr. Piner. I mean, I know from my work, my day job, that Glen Swing really is recognized statewide as one of the best after-school programs anywhere really. And I know also, Ms. Hunt's doing a great job, great work in the FRC. So I also think back to this number one school in Kenton County. I might get like a tattoo of it on the game. I really want, we get so much, I know my colleagues and I get so much pushback. We're in the community and we're keep being told, families don't want to choose to come to Covington. This is the best school up here, y'all, the best. So get with the program. Get with the program. This is the best school. And I think my colleagues would join me in that. It's not only the academic excellence, but the great thing about our community is getting to go to school and grow up in a diverse, different environment, getting to know, people from all different backgrounds. That just adds to the excellence. And so I just kudos to you and your team and those who are here. It's incredibly impressive.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Garrison, any last words?
Yeah, Ms. Peach, I just want to thank you, you and your team, for always keeping students and their achievements first as a priority. And I just appreciate it. You all have had a long tradition of that. I can't remember a year since I've been superintendent where Glen O hadn't shined above the rest and lead by example. So we just appreciate your leadership, your team's leadership, and I'm going to keep following you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. All right, next up on our agenda, I believe Ms. Smallwood is here. We have a request to approve a grant application for Jamesy Biggs.
So we got the email from Mr. Harrison, who I think Ms. Evelyn had shared, the mini grant, and we have some already raised beds in our playground area that a little overran right now, so we saw it was a good opportunity. The letter of intent was due yesterday, so we're just kind of looking for that approval for that request, if we do get chosen to go forward with that proposal.
Any questions? It's okay just to throw this on the consent agenda?
Yes.
Already applied, right?
Yes, we sent the letter of intent, so if we get that, then we'll go forward with that proposal.
Okay.
Keep our fingers crossed.
Thank you, guys.
All right, personnel actions were in your packet. Check it back, see if you had any questions about those. Doesn't look like any questions about personnel actions. Mr. Alters here to present the comprehensive district improvement plan for 2023-2025.
Good evening. So every year, as you know, in January, we have to update our comprehensive district improvement plan. So what you have in your packets is the new 24, this is for next year, the new 24-25 comprehensive district improvement plan. The CDIP has been a part of development, like with the strategic plan. I think you'll see a lot of similarities between those two and what's inside of the CDIP and the strategic plan. Those things that are in the strategic plan that are in progress at this time, they will be in the CDIP if they do fall under one of the categories that the state requires us to put into the CDIP. So tonight it is an informational item, and if you have any questions, I'll take them.
Start with Ms. Evelyn.
Let me circle back.
Sure. Mr. Gastrick?
Yeah, I know we've had a lot of work into the strategic plan, and there's a real dovetailing of the CDIP with the strategic plan. I'm just wondering how you feel the connectivity is between them, or are there still aspects of the strategic plan we have to develop more to have them fit well in the way the state thinks of the school improvement plan.
No, I think they work well together.
Right,
And
that's great.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of work was done to make that dovetail, so I appreciate that. No further questions.
Mr. Simpson.
I was able to review this a little bit, and I like the specificity in it, and I like the attainable goals that you have set forth in it, and just kind of piggyback on what you're mentioning, how it aligns with our strategic plan. So I think this is good work. We just need to make sure we do what we say we're going to do. So now we got to work to get that, but this looks really good.
And if you look at the progress monitoring and the data parts of it, you'll find those in our board meeting monthly, our yearly calendars, because those are all reported to the board, as well as analyzed with leadership in our district, cabinet, school. You heard a lot of Glen Oswego talking about analyzing data. Anything we do at the board, anything we do at leadership, they do as a school. So that's, and we can evidence any of that anytime.
Mrs. Huff.
As I was reading through this, I had gotten a phone call from a staff member. So on page 17, this was the employee assistance program, that they partake of that program, and just wanted to thank the board as well as our district leaders for that program and how it impacted her life.
Pass that on to Dr. Wilkerson. And Mr. Kipper.
I'll let them know.
I'm sorry, Ms. Elam.
Sorry, I was pulling up my notes. I was just gonna ask, can you explain like the major changes from last year's plan to this year's plan? Did much change?
There, I did look at that. There are not many changes. We're still working on the work. Kind of again, like what Glen Oswego said, you have to focus on things until you get them right, until you can improve, because we know we got the right things in place. We are working, we're still working. Curriculum's never done. You're going to hear me talking about that. But one of the things I think that we will this year, we actually have a timeline that I'll send you. It's actually a timeline all the way back to 2019 and where we're at right now with the curriculum development at leadership. And I think this was one of your questions too. How does the work, how do we monitor or something
Yeah,
like
how are
that?
you tracking?
How are we tracking? Well, I think you heard today from Glen Oswego, I don't have it here, but they talked about their focuses. And those are things that they learn from leadership that we work on. Those are parts of our focus visits where we go in when you're talking about those activities. I wish I had the sheet here with me. But they're accountable. They know they're accountable to those things. I don't know why I pointed there, but so that's just an example of that.
As a district though, do you have any sort of document that monitors where different schools are at with different parts of the plan? Or are the schools monitoring their own parts of the plan?
So each school does have a CSIP, and they're required to. Ours is kind of a broad plan, and they work within this plan. This is sent to them. This is sent to their site-based councils to look at.
Yeah, so I emailed you a majority of these questions, but I know it was a little last notice. But if you have any of the answers for some of these, how are you all monitoring what strategies are working, what strategies maybe we should try something new? As far as some of the strategies listed in the plan.
Anything in particular?
Well, for example, focus visits. I think back to the time in which I was a teacher, how those focus visits were like, and how productive they were as a school. And so one of my questions was, how impactful are those focus visits? And maybe just to the board, it would be helpful to know what's the process of those visits look like? What kind of data do you get from those visits? How do they help? How do those visits help schools grow?
Again, one of the, I can just give you an example from, with Glen Swing's report, they gave you goals that they're working on. Those are from the focus visit. We have data from every focus visit in the district that we could share if you wanted to. But I think that would be, it's an accountability piece too. And it's also us working with principals and developing them and their teams.
On page 8 and 9, related to the achievement gap, I had a question. There's a variety of different terms, whether that be regular basis, routinely, often. Are there community definitions, community understanding related to what those definitions mean?
Okay.
So page 8 and 9 of CDL. So for example, I'm looking at activities, the bottom of the page, KCWP 5. And so, for example, it says provide district new teacher training on a regular basis. Are there shared definitions of what the various terms mean in terms of the timeline? I'm just thinking, if I'm a principal and I'm reading this, is regular basis a month? Is regular basis 6 weeks? Is
Right,
it?
I guess I could reword that. We do new teacher training at the beginning of the year, so I could be more specific on that.
And then I see we're spending a lot of money on PD Academy. We heard some great thoughts about that tonight, just about how teachers are appreciating that. How are we measuring whether that investment is paying off in terms of whether that, it's one thing to say, oh, our teachers, they really love this PD Academy, but is it having an impact on our students?
There are a lot of, the PD Academy, I mean, there's 40, 50 sessions and they're across the board. Every year we do a survey, and that's what teachers are asking for, what they need for their classroom. So I think one of the things that, like you heard from Glenn, like you were saying tonight, is they talked about the trainings that teachers received from unit planning, UPOs, unit planning organizers and things, and how helpful they were. We also survey all of our teachers to see how effective. It's hard to, that's a lot of different kinds of PD, and that's a big question.
Sure. I am so proud of Glen Swing and all their accomplishments, and I want to see how we can replicate the work that they're doing within our other schools so that we can have that same achievement. And so when I was just looking into the plan, I think about how important it is to get into the detail on some of this, because some schools may need something a little bit different, but some schools, this plan may be the fit for them. So I think as a board member, especially a new board member, looking at this for the second time, my first question was, what changed from last year? Where was our growth? Was this district plan something that was moving all of our schools forward? And I would have liked to have seen maybe an analysis of that as to what parts are working, or what changes did we make. It's really hard to give a thumbs up to a plan when it's got all the right educational buzzwords and it sounds good and it looks good on paper, but it's another thing for it to be in action. Whether or not this plan is meeting our kids and our staff where they need to be.
Can I add something there, Mr. Alter and Mrs. Evelyn? I want to remind you, though, that this is the overall district plan. Each school has their own individualized plan. Just like when we were referencing training, each educator has different needs. So that's why we offer different trainings for different teachers for different needs. So we try to individualize for the school, because not everybody, Gleno's been working on this, like I said, for maybe 10 years on putting these systems in place to get the results we're getting. All of our schools hadn't been working on that for 10 years. And so throughout that time, like you said, we are trying to replicate what's happening in Glen. We've been doing that now for 10 years. And we're going to continue that because obviously it works. And it's all in that plan that you have before you. And then the schools take that district plan and they take it and make it their own as a school plan. And that's where they get to identify where their needs are, where they need to focus their attentions. And we help them do that through the focus visit. We go in there, like you said, you've experienced it. We go to different classrooms. We look for things like student engagement. We look for things, and then we collaborate with the principal and the principal's team to give the school feedback on what they're doing well and areas if they want to continue to grow. We give them those, and then we come back and we monitor. So that's the way the system works. And we come back and monitor, and then we give them additional goals after that.
Each school has a separate PDSA, the Plan Do Study Act, which, again, Glenn talked about tonight. They are differentiated between schools for what goals they need. Each of those PDSAs are monitored by us with the principals, written by us with the principals, based on their needs, on our walkthroughs that we do, our instructional rounds. And we are trying to build systems in the district like Glen Swing has. I was a part of Glen Swing a while back, and I'm trying to build those same systems in our district.
What are the challenges to replicating those systems in some of our other schools?
Every single school has a different vibe, but the systems are what they are. When you're talking about having a rigorous, strong curriculum, high-quality instructional resources, formative assessment, research-based instructional strategies, they're going to work in every school. So that's what we're working on as a district. In our leadership meetings right now, we're training our principals and our instructional coaches and our lead teachers on research-based instructional practices to use in our curriculum in our district. We're training them so they can go back and train their teachers. That's part of the timeline of building a curriculum.
We can talk further. Thank you.
I had just a couple of questions. One, so the goals that you propose, I'm just curious, how do you decide that's an attainable goal, right? From this percent to this percent?
So in the school report card, Kentucky School Report Card, they got us out to 2032 and where we're at. Our goals are actually higher as a district than the state has us put at.
So they give us some.
They give us goals and they get increments from year to year. So one of the things in your email, Ms. Elin, that you said was benchmarks, and I guess I had them in last year. I should have put them all in again this year for all the subgroups. But if you go into the school report card under assessment and you drill down to progress towards state goals, you can go to any elementary, middle school, high school, and it shows you exactly where we've landed over the last 2 years and where our projection is for up to 2032. So those goals that are in the CDIP, I just go with the state required goals, which is, I think, a good thing to follow.
Because one of the questions I had was about the composite ACT, right? Our goal is below the state average, so it's that feels weird to me. But
we can adjust.
Sure. But I get this is a document that they look at and hold account. I understand that. And then I guess maybe it's kind of a follow-up to maybe something Ms. Ethan was talking about, but I think the PD Academy is one of the few universally well-loved, beloved things that we hear about as a board, right? From all staff members, they love the PD Academy. And so I love that we're doing surveys to understand what they want out of the PD Academy. But I think we've all been guilty. Well, I'll say I've been guilty of going to a conference and maybe taking sessions that looked really fun and I want to do that, not necessarily what I probably should be doing all the time. So like, how do you and your team vet first, like what people want to see, but tying it back to what our students actually need?
So how we come about, just recently, we're starting the PD committee back up again to get ready for next August already. So I'm asking principals for input, what your school needs. I'm asking all of our directors for input. I'm asking the PD survey will go out to all teachers then, once I get that input. And it'll ask them too, like, what else do you need? Yes.
I was just gonna give my mic. It's taking this time. I was gonna also say that, Mr. Haggard, that how this is supposed to work is, okay, each teacher is given a growth plan. And principals are supposed to sit down and talk to them about that growth plan. That way a teacher can say, well, I think I need to work on this. Principal can say, well, you're doing great there. You probably need to check into this. So that's the way it's supposed to work. The principal's supposed to have dialogue with teachers and advise them. I can't say that happens in all buildings, but I would say in some of our higher performance buildings, they do have a dialogue, so that's where when teachers go to the PD Academy, if a principal should tell, Alvin, you need to probably go to this session because that's where you're in your growth plan. That's what you need to work on. And like I said, that's done in our high performing schools. Again, we're trying to bridge that gap and help other principals understand that's part of their role as principal. It's part of their evaluation. We identify a growth plan. We work together to decide either some goals or some areas of improvement. And then I give you if I'm the principal, I'll give you suggestions on where to go find that to individualize your training for you. That's the way it's supposed to work in a perfect world.
Okay. And I get to that point, like you and your team then are responsible for coaching where that's not happening, right? And trying to get that.
Yes, we talk about it all the time. So we're learning as we move forward with the academy.
All right. Well, we'll include this as a individual approval item for our business meeting. I think if anybody's got additional questions, I probably will reach out to you just to kind of understand it a little bit better, if that's okay. I will teach work.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Mr. Alford. All right, next we'll go to BG 23062, campus project estimate of updated probable costs. It looks like we got the A team here tonight. Present to us.
Greetings, my professional partners here from MBOS are with me tonight along with Mr. Neff. As you can see, this is a project that was originally approved back in 2022. As you can see, and one of the things Mr. Gastrade had indicated he wanted and needed to feel comfortable was updated cost. So we have much updated cost included in your packet. The current recommendation from MBOS and the district is that we proceed with some reduction in the project in order to keep it in line with costs. It's sort of outlined in your paperwork. I'm sure you've all had time to look at that, what those specific recommendations are. So with that, this is an informational item tonight, and we're asking for potential approval on this at the second January meeting to proceed with the project.
And so I still continue to try to master the BG process. What you're asking for approval for is to put this out for construction.
Not tonight, no.
But not tonight, but like that's what.
Eventually, that's what we're working towards.
So at our meeting later this month, that's what we
Just send it
to send it to.
And the first approval is for design. And the second.
So we've approved the design. Now we got to approve the actual construction. I'll start on this side. Ms. Huff, any questions? Mr. Simpson? Mr. Gastrade?
I have a few questions. So first question is, are there any ESSER funds implicated in any of these BGs? So this is ESSER free?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Good. So I just wanted to point out, in addition to the two projects And this is part of the color coding. So everybody got this sheet, right? So the two projects that are grayed out are being shelved for right now.
Postponed at this time for the reasons that were listed.
And the other one that should have been grayed out would be the improvements to the entry plaza in front of the edge, but we have to have to be crystal.
Right.
I don't have that. Is it?
It's really small, but it is.
Yeah, I had to print mine out, ginormous.
And even making it to that is still hard. It's this
Yeah.
one.
But so you can go to the KSBA site and download it, which I advise if you want to try to read it. But okay, so the two projects that are grayed out are the classroom improvements in the middle school and high school.
Right, and of course, reason being for that is we are thinking that it's likely that the board is in support of potential air conditioning in those rooms. We wouldn't want to put the money in now to fix them up, only to turn around hopefully in a year or two and then cause damage there as we install the potential air conditioning.
And then the plaza is the third project that's grayed out. That should be grayed out.
Right.
Yes.
And it's
That's being
stable,
postponed.
there's not like a safety issue. It would cosmetically look better, and we do still hope to do that at some point.
Right.
Yes, sir.
And this is an effort to stay within the original BG number.
Which is 9 point something for construction cost, 11 point something for total cost.
With soft costs. and
The
everything.
soft cost, yeah. For those three grayed out projects, was there any design effort done toward those?
Yes.
Do we still pay those fees, those soft cost fees?
Yes, but I think
To a point.
to a point,
Yeah.
right.
Do we know what that point is?
I'm sorry, Mr. Kipper, would you share the microphone? Thank you.
Mark Perry with MBOS. We are through SD and committed through partial DD, but there are some are more ahead of others.
Understood. But is this sheet accurate, meaning those soft costs are captured or,
Yes, they are currently
Okay.
captured.
and just so for my help, because there's lots of lines on the soft costs, which lines are the professional fees included in the? soft costs?
What I'll call the fees for the work that's been done that may not proceed, because
Yeah.
those are done under line 19 on the last page.
That's identified as other,
Yes, other fees, yes.
so that's trying to read $169,000, correct? Yeah.
And the drawings for the plaza are 100% essentially done. So theoretically, you could bid that in the future if you want, as is.
Gotcha. So we've got a complete biddable package.
On
The other projects, we would have more costs, more soft costs would have to go into the classroom projects to be able to bid those.
Correct. Yeah. I put my team on hold when it looked like things were out of hand.
And what date was that? That things looked out of hand?
Well, honestly, it dates back to when the wheels came off on the ventilation project.
Gotcha.
Obviously, we had some efforts to put forth to fix that. So it was simultaneous to that.
Super. All right. So the other color coding that's on here is kind of a light yellow zone that is the auditorium work. Now, it looks like in the description, the auditorium work, what we're saying is this is a bid alternate now.
That's
That-
all I'm proposing.
The base bid would be no work to the auditorium. And then it would be bid, and if the funds allowed it, we would then award that project.
It's as an alternate, but it's in our total number currently. So
The 9 point whatever million includes the
it
auditorium.
does include the auditorium. Yes.
But if bids come in unfavorably, that is in a chunk that can be taken out, and that chunk is,
About 500.
oh yeah, I'm sorry, the yellow part is not the auditorium.
Yes, it's, I'm not sure why it's yellow, to be honest with you, but the auditorium is at 535.
533.
currently.
And the original new construction estimate. The original estimate for that was $543. Did the price of that work come down?
What we did is we had to reduce scope on that because originally it was renovate the auditorium.
Right.
No real defined scope. Included in that, they wanted lighting upgrade, stage lighting upgrade, stage floor replacement, stage curtain, plaster repair, painting the place, undercroft stage area. We reduced it down to just the understage repairs and a new sound system.
Okay.
Because that was what identified as the most critical. The repainting of that, the plaster repair, that could easily hit 1 million by itself.
Right.
Every time the odds device catalog, they got a handle on that. So
could you itemize the items that are now excluded from that scope, just so that,
I can do that and get it.
because I think when we approved it, the last time we saw this approved it, it was just called renovate auditorium.
I'll do that. Send that over.
Okay, so renovate auditorium now means a new sound system in the undercroft gets touched. No painting, no plaster repair, nothing to the seats, no lighting, any of that. Okay, so that's what's currently in the 533. It's just the undercroft and the sound system.
And if you've been down in the undercroft, it's dismal at best.
I don't think
And
anyone's ever been, I mean, maybe some students
Yeah, but they should.
illicitly. I know I haven't. Have you?
I was in trauma.
You were in drama, so you might have seen that.
I'm not-
I've never been.
25 years.
It's bad. You can't use it.
Understood. Okay, so even if we get the 533 in bid day, we're touching the sound system in the undercroft,
Mhm.
and everything else in the auditorium stays the way it was.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes,
That's not what we agreed on.
I agree.
So don't we have pushback on that?
Well, there's no ESSER funds in this, so yeah, there's no urgency to approve or not approve that, but it's a different project than when we approved the
But
original
it's an
BG.
embarrassment to Holmes High School at
Yes,
this
it
point,
is. Yes.
and it needs to be corrected.
All right. So all of this is outlined in this part of your packet that has the emboss on it. Yes, go ahead.
Just a quick, I did have a question because the highlighted part was different than what we're looking at. I'm assuming that will be corrected, like what's going to be the contingency? Because this highlighted part is talking about.
I don't think the highlighted part was meant to mean the contingency.
Oh, that's what I see.
Because I couldn't read the numbers on it, I interpreted that it was that part, but it's not.
Can you explain the yellow why the gym is highlighted in yellow? The renovations for the senior gym and the locker room?
I honestly don't know. Yeah. You know,
I think it started with the way the estimate was originally done. We ended up getting separate numbers from electrical, mechanical, and plumbing. Probably frankly just should have been yellow highlighted.
Okay. Thank you. But we'll change that for the.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so next scope of work, our beloved softball field. I heard tonight that the Teams Foundation had raised $25,000 for the lighting. Right now, the softball field stands at 3.2 million. Is that correct? Is there any lighting included in that?
Yes,
That 3.2 million has lighting?
yes, correct.
So when I go up above in the delta, the item under Musco lights is zeroed out in the
original, it's the way that the estimates were kind of sequenced. Originally, we had a $250,000 number, whatever it was from Radius. We since got a revised number from CMTA, felt that their number was more accurate and valid.
So it's in the electrical.
So it's in
CMTA
the
bottom.
electrical, correct.
Okay.
But it is a must-go lighting system.
Okay. So the electrical feed to lights that's zeroed out is also a radius number that is now
Correct.
included in the CMTA. Okay.
Yeah,
That's a
Radius's estimate was based on a schematic, civil, and architectural drawing. They really had no idea, electrically speaking. So they based it on previous project, which probably wasn't applicable.
Okay. Super. So, the increases then should take that into account. Because I was come up with a 43% increase in that cost, which seemed high compared to inflation. But really, I need to take.
I think it's a $600,000 difference from the original number.
Okay, very good. That's very helpful. All right, when I go down, let's see. So would we agree that one of the big problems we had with the ventilation project was lack of contractor interest?
That contributed for sure.
Yeah. Are there things we can do to increase contractor interest so that when we put the softball project out to bid, we don't end up with one qualified bid at 150% of budget?
I don't know that there truly is. Working on the Holmes campus.
Yeah.
It's not simple work. It takes a contractor of a certain ilk and desire, somebody who's comfortable working with renovating 80-plus-year-old buildings. And it's, the list in front of you is a lot of different things that aren't.
It's tricky.
Together.
I know. It's not fun doing a renovation of an old building.
So I don't know that there's anything that we could promise would attract more attention.
Yeah.
The only thing I could think on the softball field, because that is so different from the rest of the work,
Right.
is if you were to bid that separately, but then that means a separate bonding effort, separate fees for the bonding agent, all that, and treat it as a standalone project. Because then contractors that would never bid working inside that building, because it's site work, would be more interested in doing that. Now, does that mean you're going to get a lower price overall? I don't know, because there'd be some increased costs with your bond costs and things like that.
Is there any way you can have it bid so that, I mean, I imagine a GC who's interested in interior work may get a specialty contractor that does the field work. They may not self-perform. It might be a separate team anyway, or?
Well, just the quantity of this work is going to knock out a lot of smaller contractors. I mean, $12 million or $9 million worth of work means there's going to be certain contractors that just won't bid this project at all because they can't be bonded for that.
Right.
But the softball field as a standalone, I think would open up to more contractors because it's a clear identifiable scope, less unknowns, if you will.
Right.
But I just don't know what those additional costs would be.
Do you have any idea what, like, if we asked for a list of 5 contractors who are likely to review this to even consider submitting bid, is that an easy list to develop, or is it not?
It would require phone calls because, it's very much market specific. Are there easier things out there bidding? What is their current workload like?
Right. Okay.
And even on like the transportation office, I reached out to 5 contractors personally. Yeah, we're interested. I think it will be it.
Right.
So it all depends.
If we hosted a meet and greet with contractors, just for them to come in and then we could see who shows up, I mean, would that be a reasonable way to gauge interest? Because, I mean, obviously we'd be selecting the end, contractor, so an opportunity to come meet the decision makers, get introduced to our community, put a face with a name.
I'm not saying it won't work. I've never tried it, but I mean, we have the pre-bid meeting. That's usually when we find out a lot.
Right.
But what you're saying is more of a social event.
Social, we could do it with a pre-bid and we would just be there. I don't know.
Okay.
But I think I think it's different when you put a face with a name and
Sure.
We know as people who sell to the same types of groups, the opportunity to meet the people making the decision is a big deal. So you take advantage of that and it humanizes the whole process up. I don't know.
I mean, for the major project as a entire entity of 9.4.
Yeah.
If we get 3 bidders, I'd be thrilled.
You'd be thrilled.
But if we did the softball field alone, I could see you could possibly get 5 for that, because it's just, it's a clear, small definition of scope versus a bunch of renovation work,
Right.
which is nasty.
So the question is, would the increased administrative costs of getting the additional bonding or whatever, would that outweigh the competitive advantages you get from 5 contractors? That's the right question. Okay. So questions, I guess, the BG for the softball is a separate item. This is just on the budgets, or is this also on the BG for the softball?
It's all together.
It's all together.
The BG currently is for everything, so you would need a new BG form also. You'd have to break it out.
All right, so questions on because we're going to be asked to approve the softball BG next meeting.
Well,
And we asked for these costs. I asked for these
Right,
costs
right.
as a way of making myself.
It's all one BG.
It's
right
all
now
one
as it
BG,
stands. The
right.
softball field, the senior gym, yeah, it's all one BG.
If anyone's wondering the reason that decision was made back when it was because it is a way to control those administrative costs, those.
Right.
extra costs.
That's a saving.
That's down overall. And what we're really looking for tonight as a design team is just to say, yes, your recommended scope that we have in the letter is what we want to proceed with. Because we pretty much just shut everybody down until we got a clear scope or definition that, yes, this is what they're gonna go with, or no, we want to do the whole thing. That's a totally different thing. So we just want to get everybody started back up again so that we can get it all wrapped up.
Right. Okay, I know last time when we did the ventilation project, we received a voluminous set of drawings and specs that maybe some of the board members said they did not appreciate getting. I'm looking at you, Glenda.
I did not.
But I would appreciate getting those for the,
In addition to the PDFs, you would like a paper copy.
did we get the PDF?
That's what I'd sent, our firm had sent out the PDF originally. I'm not sure if we printed them out, but we sent out the PDFs
For the ventilation project?
for any of the projects. That's how we send them to you.
But you also sent them for the campus?
We
project?
will when we wrap it up. yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, for the
Yeah.
CD set. Yeah, it would not be paper unless you request it.
But that's what we're approving next meeting, correct?
Assuming,
Well, you couldn't possibly approve the softball field next meeting. You can approve the intent to pursue at that cost, the softball field,
Gotcha.
but I put everybody on hold. I mean, it's not quite ready for release.
So what are we approving next meeting? What is this, what are we approving right now? The scope?
Right now, it's just informational.
Scope
lines.
and budget. We're trying to align scope and budget, and then you'll have to come back again for us to put it out to bid.
Correct.
Sorry, I didn't understand that. I thought we were being.
I didn't understand that either.
I thought we were being approving putting out the bid next meeting, but we are just approving the scope and budget, revised budget numbers
Correct.
next meeting. And then at some later date, when you complete the designs, you'll come back and we will then have to approve the project so that you can put it out to bid.
Correct.
yeah, the design work on everything but the
I think everything but the
softball
softball field
is
is ready.
done and ready to go. But if we combine them all together, so theoretically, if you said, no, we want to take the softball field out, treat that as a separate project, then at the next board meeting, yes, we could bring you the package for everything else and say, let's put it out to bid. But the softball field is what we've got on hold as well as the classroom stuff. So that's the only thing we have to wrap up.
I know at the beginning of this meeting, Glenda said that she was eating a cupcake because dinner might not be for 3 hours. I said, no, we'll be done, but I'm sorry, I'm contributing to this. Okay, so, so there was some questions made tonight, and, I was at the team's foundation meeting earlier this week where we discussed this project. I've gotten some heat because I've said that I'm not comfortable approving any additional BGs until I understand how all of them are falling out, so I appreciate that information. There's lots of questions about why the softball field hasn't started, right? And I think all the times we've approved BGs was kind of reiterated tonight. I will point out that this time last year, in January 31st of 23, we did get a schedule for the campus project that had it advertising for bid on June 5th of 23. So I just want to make it clear that the board is not holding up this project, right?
No, you are correct.
So in any escalation in the price of it from June 5th until whenever we end up bidding it, is not the fault of the board, even though we will have to make the hard decisions about where that money comes from to our community that we get berated by when we suggest that we're not doing X, Y, or Z. That's a lot of, these are our neighbors we're talking with, and they're saying, why isn't this, you said you were going to approve it, why is it happening? It's not us. I would like, some explanation. I mean, we approve projects and the scope is different, and I understand we're approving that now. Scope is different. It's just frustrating because we get presented one thing, and by the time we come around to approve it for construction, it's a different project. We don't know what it is. It's been delayed. It costs too much. We're not getting updated. When the softball field came up, I said, the only way I'll approve it is if you put in money to improve our classrooms. So what? So now it's the thing that's postponed, right? The one thing I asked for to vote for this softball field initially. I understand the Title IX, I understand these things, but I think that there's a lack of thoughtfulness that goes into that makes me feel like the things I've asked for and had agreements and I've gone out and approved are not valued. The tax hearing, I was told, we need this tax hearing to get air conditioning. I look at our bonding potential. This is from, it's not dated, but our bonding potential says after a BG at the 9.5 or $12 million price, we will have $12 million worth of bonding capacity. And the date on it is 2048.
I believe it's 16.4 was the last document that.
How much will air conditioning the high school cost? Do you have any idea how much it will cost? Have you been asked to put a price together for that?
I think performance services
Performance services estimated it would be in the neighborhood of 10 to 15.
10 to 15.
And the last document we got from Compass was about 16.4 in potential bonding capacity.
So and that doesn't include improvements in classrooms, I presume. That's just
So
everything.
the 10 to 15, I mean, there would be some, you're going to be touching those classrooms. So to speak to the reason that part was postponed, and let me be clear, you could still move forward with that. I mean, it's our recommendation that we postpone right now because if we're going to come back in with air, we wouldn't want to waste that money, right? We wouldn't want to tear that up. You could still choose to do that. It's not been removed. It's just our recommendation that we postpone that classroom piece. But in terms of whether that 10 to 15 million, when we put in that air conditioning, I would assume that there's some work there that's going to have to be done to those classrooms. But, we haven't clearly defined how we want that spec out yet. So that to speak to that specifically would be difficult.
Right. So at the teams meeting, I was called out by Mr. Neff as not being prepared because he claimed that there was a plan, that I had a plan in my email that showed how we were paying for all these things. And to me, I searched my email and I did not have that plan. I did not have a plan on how we pay for the things that I went to that tax meeting and it was a tough decision. And I was told we need to do this for air conditioning. And what I feel like is we raise the taxes. It seems unlikely we can do the air conditioning, right? It seems unlikely we can do the auditorium. It's like everything that touches all of our kids, we can't do. But we can do the weight room, We can do the softball because we've got these Title IX things happening. And our high school, which is, are we out of CSI
Yes,
or TSI?
yes,
Is that right?
yes, absolutely.
So our high school, TSI, our only TSI school, which is good news, that it's our only one, but it's still our TSI school, is the school that we can't find a way. And Alan, Mr. Garrison, I don't know if you can remember any of those 12 points in the tax hearing that you made the case, how connected the air conditioning the campus is to our achievement. You got it.
Right here?
Could you read just a few of those?
Absolutely, be glad to. Number one, the Board of Education requested the school district to find a way to provide air conditioning to the entire campus. Matter of fact, I think that occurred August of 22. It wasn't the same board, but the board requested that at the time when, I think the exact words were, we would like to do both, because we told you at the time that we could not do the air condition and we could not do all the ventilation work, and we could not do the homes upgrades because the ventilation work at the time would take all of our money. And so at that point, August 22, board said, okay, we're going to approve this. And like you said, Mr. Gash, right? You said that, you had some conditions around your support at the time, but you also said at that time, Mr. Garrison, I want you to, not you, but this board at the time, and said, we would love for you all to find a way to not only do this homes project, but to also provide air to the campus. So after getting those marching orders, we worked with Compass to provide a way to do the homes campus project along with air conditioning. That was the nickel. So that was number one, board requested. Now of the last, and let me state one other point. The reason the softball field, the reason we had the option of doing the softball field right now was the new legislation. I can't remember the bill, but up until this point, the softball field was a priority 5 project. And as a priority 5, according to Kentucky regulations, you can't do anything with priority 5 until you take care of all your other needs. Well, at 2 years ago, the General Assembly allowed school districts to have some flexibility to upgrade some of their athletic complexes and not go through all the bureaucracy and all that legislation, the bureaucracy of getting things done. They gave us some leverage to take care of things that's been neglected for years. So that's why I think the board at the time had an interest in doing the softball field. One, because our girls, it was an equity issue. And we had at the time the leverage to be able to do it because of what the legislative had done around the bills or whatever they did. They allowed us that flexibility. So that's the reason the softball field was even being discussed at that time, because the other 8 years I'd been here, we couldn't do it anyway because it was a priority 5 and we could not do that. We'd have to do everything else on the district facility plan. Although I will say we have done most everything else on the district facility plan, but it still wouldn't allow us the flexibility to do the softball field. 9 of 11 years, the Board of Education took the compensating rate, decreasing taxes for the local community. That was number 2. Number 3, the district has supported numerous IRB pilot programs, giving businesses tax breaks to relocate to Covington. Our partnership with the city and the Covington Business Council helped create jobs and business growth in Covington. Number 4 is the support for taking the nickel.
Yeah.
Number 4, the board recently adopted an equity plan that ensures an equitable learning environment for all of our students. The tax increase addresses equity issues. I do not know of any other high school in Northern Kentucky without air conditioning. That was number 4. Number 5, Covington Independent Public Schools has the lowest tax rate among independent districts in Northern Kentucky. Number 6, air conditioning on the campus was recommended by our local planning committee and our district facility plan. Number 7, our recently adopted strategic plan states improved building and staff efficiencies, increased certified retention, maintain clean, safe, up-to-date facilities, student retention, student and staff wellness. Number 8, student achievement is improving in Covington. Number 9, the cost of 3 cents per the cost is only 3 cents per $100. And number 10, it is the right thing to do for our students. And I stand by that.
So there were a few of those, and I thought you had one about, maybe someone stood up and spoke about how right now we've got air conditioning in the high school.
We have air conditioning units. Yes.
But they're units.
Mm.
And because of those, half the students in the classroom do not have the same fidelity of learning as the other half. So we've all been in a room with an air conditioner rattling in the window, right?
That's correct. Yes.
So we know this is tied to learning and achievement. We know it contributes to teacher retention, teacher recruitment, because we need classrooms without those units in the windows. But I feel like I still do not see the plan that shows how we get it. We know that this BG is for 11.5 million. When, after we do it, we'll have 16 million.
About 16.4 was the most recent figure we got from Compass.
From Compass. We know that when Performance Services did their estimate back on what date?
Mr. Neff got that, when was that?
Back in the fall.
This fall, that 10 to 15 million. And let me be clear, it is a rough estimate of what the project could cost until we get into it. Much like, all these BG ones are living, breathing, changing documents, but that's the rough estimate.
So I guess what I'm hearing is, I will vote on this with your recommendation, Mr. Garrison. If you feel like, with all the things you outlined about learning environment and achievement of our students, if you feel like we are in a position and you have confidence in our team that we can get the air conditioning done with our bonding capacity, I'm still aggravated that the classroom work is not accounted for in any of these figures. And it was my one request initially, and I was not updated until this came out, that it was no longer included. I'm aggravated that the auditorium scope was changed without informing the board, and that design was proceeding along that route. So that's just how I feel, but I have heard from our community about the softball field, the Title IX issue. I know that the weight room is part of that as well, from my reading of the Title IX report. I am interested in looking at the drawings when they come out, just to evaluate bells and whistles and making sure that our money is being, at least so I can update the rest of the board on what I see in those. But if you will say, if you're going to stand by approving this scope with our expectation that at some point the missing scope from this, along with the air conditioning, would be achievable, then I will vote to move forward with this scope.
Okay, how soon, because I do support both recommendations. I do support moving forward with the softball field. It is an equity issue, and we have a window of time to get that work. And I also support pursuing the air conditioning as requested by the board in August of 2022. That was my marching orders. I feel like we've done that. We've done our best. We're not perfect, and I apologize if you feel like that we're getting you information not in a timely manner. We will do better. But I support both projects. I think it's right for our kids. I think anything we can do to improve our facilities on that campus is the right thing to do. And I really don't think we can put a price tag on that personally. And I also think this is something that I'm hopeful, again, I'm not making any promises, but because this board stood up and took that nickel, we could possibly get some support from the General Assembly. Because you all took that risk and took that nickel The General Assembly is looking because they realize that facilities, especially older facilities like ours, especially, athletic fields have been neglected for so long that we're not the only district dealing with some of these issues, older buildings, fields not, you look at some of the newer buildings around the state, new fields, new everything. And then you've got some of the districts like ours that are dealing with older facilities. So it is an equity issue, but the General Assembly, they really are paying attention to which districts took the nickel this year. And so I'm proud that you all had the courage to take the nickel, to stand behind that, to do that for our students. Although I can't promise you everything will be done, I can promise you we'll work hard to try to do everything. That's my commitment. That's my commitment to this board. That's my commitment to our students, those little ones who were standing here before. That's my commitment to them, most of all. And that's at my core. And I'll do everything in my power to see that our kids get whatever they need to be successful. So that's the word I give you.
So one thing I would encourage us to think about, and I don't know where this comes from, but when we talk about the auditorium, and that's the thing, that's besides the classrooms being taken out, the idea that the auditorium scope got reduced to the point that, we know the acoustics in there are awful. The AV system's awful. At least when we have a board meeting in there, it's ridiculous. Sorry, I don't mean to, I know Jamarcus does a great job. What we give him, and I appreciate you, Mr. White, but, these are things that our students deserve better. I would love to see, we hear $1 million for plaster and paint. I would love to see us think outside the box. Right now, if we had a partner who could help us with that, couldn't we have their name on the room? Couldn't we look for ways of raising funds for these? We don't have to redo the decorative plaster, but if there's someone in our community who wants to see, the grandeur of that space restored, then we need to raise money. And we're not going to raise it through our general fund. We're not going to deviate money from air conditioning because of its impact on student learning to get the plaster molding restored properly. So I think we've got to get a little, things are getting leaner. We need to get smarter about how we focus the resources of our alumni and community toward these things that we can take pride in, number one elementary school in Kenton County, right? And then the auditorium, having a restored auditorium with the community using it. And these are things that are real touch points of pride for the district, so. No further questions.
Questions.
I got a couple. So someone explain to me again, I know we've talked about this before, but, we've talked about the crown jewel of high school baseball, at least at Lincoln Field, and why that's not a sufficient space to use for softball.
So there's a few issues with use of Lincoln for softball. One is the backstop is not the same. It's not regulation. So we could never have district there. For example, the outfield fence, the temporary fence has to be brought in. There's some safety issues there. If you're going out to pitch a fly ball and you have a temporary fence that is a tripping hazard, essentially. Our crew has, I don't know if it's 6, 8, or 10, I always get it confused, but a sizable crew has to literally lift a mound out, right? Every time you bring that mound out and set it down, you're damaging the lift and you're damaging the field. The guys are also telling me it's a workers' comp issue waiting to happen. They're lifting something that is extremely, extremely heavy. So those are some of the physical reasons. And then you have use of the field. It's a rainy season a lot of times in the spring when this stuff's getting started. So you're trying to juggle that baseball and softball. And as you know, Holy Cross has come up wanting some use of that field at times. So it also becomes a scheduling nightmare too. It just isn't a good long-term feasible solution.
We've played softball games there, correct? Softball games have been played at Lincoln.
We have done it. We brought it out. That portable amount and set those things up. It has happened.
Okay. I'm just, if we have safety concerns, we probably shouldn't have been playing softball games there than in the past. One of my other questions was in the BG, I think we heard from our folks from the Team Foundation that came and spoke. And I'd like to get a real hard understanding of the money that's been raised for this specific project, but that's not accounted for in our funds available for this project.
It wouldn't be within the BG because that's what we're spending.
Okay. So then the money that they've raised would go for things that are not identified in this scope, or they would just be reimbursing the district for the money we've spent for the whole project?
So I would defer to Ms. Birching on the specifics around the money, or Mr. Smith about the money coming in from team and how that works out of the.
And that's a question that Director Hershey can answer
Yes, thank you.
in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
We'll talk about it before the next meeting, but just a question to get answered. Oh, she knows it. She didn't need any time. Of course not. Director Hershey's always prepared.
The donation that we got from the Mama State, I think is in the $90,000 range, so I think the rest of it's still sitting with the Team Foundation, so I'm not sure how that part will work. But I do know the $90-some thousand is in our financials. So once we get farther in the process, we will be putting that on the BG1 as a revenue source. It's just not on there yet.
Okay. And that's for the money that we received, the school district received from the Mama State.
Yes, and I think the Mama State gave some to the foundation as well, if I'm correct in remembering.
That is correct.
And I think that would be a great kind of insert for our meeting in 2 weeks to understand exactly what those contributions would be in the work that the Team Foundation's done to support the project. All right, any additional questions at this point, Mrs. Huff?
Well, in the future, especially when we're talking about BGs, possibly we can offer our guests chairs, since Mr. Gastrite can be kind of windy.
Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. All right, so I do have some concerns. Number one, the money that the Team Foundation is going to supply only needs to go to the softball field.
Right.
And if it's lumped into here, I'm afraid it's going to get lost. And I also think part of the delay and part of why they kind of paused is because of the master plan that you wanted. And that took so long for us to get a grasp of what we wanted on it. And it's still not completed because I don't know if you've hired somebody for it or not. I think it delayed and everybody was just on pause because we didn't know what in the heck we were doing. But what I would like to do, it really makes me nervous when we have so many projects at one time. Because I don't know, I can't concentrate if I can't focus on one thing and get that task done. So maybe in the future, for various reasons. Number one, I think we could control the budget a little bit better if we were only focusing on one thing at a time. Like, I think the softball field needs to be totally separate. It doesn't need to be in here. And the classroom, that needs to be totally separate. As partners, we're going to KSBA here in February. When we go to that room, that big room that's got all of those vendors in there, you're more than welcome to come with us, Mr. Kippenbrook. And you could talk to those vendors because they're all the people that you need. I think it would be really great for you to do that. Introduce yourself, tell them what our needs are and what is coming down the pike. Maybe they will be interested in it. I like your idea of a social event. Invite them to our district to see what they have. I think we can also get community partners in there to help us paint the classrooms if we need to, or paint the auditorium if we need to. And I bet you anything, especially with this guy sitting here, he knows a heck of a lot of people that will be able to fix that sound system, even if it does cost us money. So I think we're just getting too broad and we just need to stop and focus and maybe change these BG ones. Thank you.
And just another point of clarification, project number 1B, this is secure administration offices. So was that not part of the original BG that we approved?
So I can speak to that. At different times, different principals come and say, we've identified a safety or security need, right? And sometimes they're well outside of the scope of what our maintenance could just get done for them. We try to find ways to say yes to those things, particularly if they're safety related. So that did get added to this project at the request of the middle school, and it changed the scope. It was the only way we could get something like that done.
I thought we did a secure entrance in middle school.
We did. They went, based on a couple of different incidents that occurred up there, they want some modifications. It's further enhancement. It's beyond the required, even further. But it doesn't, let me say this, what the work we've already done there is still valid. It's just additional.
Couldn't that come back to us though?
Well, I think this goes along with what Mr. Gastro is frustrated, but the scope is changing after we've approved a project. And I understand that it's coming back to us now to approve, but I think this goes back to another central theme of that. The unstrategic decisions that are being made with our facilities just here and there. There's not a clear vision of how we are moving forward on facilities. And so, that was the desire for a facilities master plan. So it can give us that vision of where we need to go. And so that we're not, approving a plan and then we're coming back and it's changed and we didn't know it's changed, or we're asked to spend money to build a playground at a school and then we're being told a year later that we want to close that school, or we've already done a secure entrance at a school, but now we need others. It becomes very frustrating as a board member, and I understand I want to fund every need we have and have the best facilities available, but there is only so much money. It is a dollars and cents thing. And so I would echo what Mr. Gastrite said. I want more clarity on what the priorities should be from the superintendent and his administrative team. You tell us, you've got all these out in front of you. What is the highest priority? And we got to trust you, but we need more clarity from you about what these priorities are for facilities. So if there's no other questions tonight, I think you have Mr. Kippenbrock's information. I'm sure you can reach out with more questions. We'll include this as an individual approval item in our meeting later this month. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Next is the district facilities master plan.
Thank you.
Contract, Mr. Kippenbrock.
I was just going to say,
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
So we have an agreement back before us with SHP to conduct the facilities master plan. Thank you to Mr. Kippenbrock, Mr. Gastrite, Mr. Garrison for your work on this, getting back to us. Any questions from the board? Mr. Gastrite.
So I just wanted to give an update on my analysis of the scope of the master plan document. So one thing that I noted was, once I flipped it, under the educational visioning, point 2, it talks about 3 parallel teams, and it only mentions 2 of the teams. It mentions a teacher team and a student team. I inferred from later language that the 3rd team is a community team. I did reach out to Brandy for clarification and expect to have that, but I don't have it right now.
I thought it was the district team, the district steering committee.
Okay, we'll get clarity on what that 3rd team is. But in general, looking through each of these scope items, I feel like this is the information that we asked for the master plan team to come up with a process to gather, generate, engage, facilitate for us to have. So, and then it does seem like the fee fits within our kind of presumptions when we started. So those are the only things I wanted to add.
I had one question on that, because I feel like our district office buildings are a priority in this too, but nothing's really mentioned there, right? We've had conversations about how this building itself is not ADA accessible, and so I know obviously we've gotten information from the superintendent about the building on Pike Street, kind of all the repairs that are needed there. So I'm just curious, are they going to include that in the scope? Is that going to be part of this? Was it just?
My presumption was it would include every operational and educational.
I think if we can just get some clarity
But we can
on
get
that,
some.
that would be great. Mr. Simpson?
I was looking this over and it, just the payment schedule for this, I think it's on the last page, where lump sum billing format, lump sum is checked. Does that mean lump sum up front, lump sum at the end?
Based on percentage of completion, but, lump sum is counter to like hourly. Hourly would mean every hour they work, we pay them the rate.
No, it has the option for hourly estimated as well.
And they chose lump sum because the price that's identified is the maximum.
Okay, so
For
we'll be paid periodically.
Yeah, so when they'll come to us and say, we think we're 10% done, and they'll invoice us for 10% of that lump sum.
Could we ask to get that a little bit more? I've never seen anything like this where you have both of those hourly and lump sum, but there's templates and there's easier ways to kind of put that in. Don't get paid hourly or monthly or something like that. I think there's just a little bit more clarity on it. Because if we're looking at this, it looks like we would pay them as a lump sum. That's all at once. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, and I will just say, most of my fee proposals are lump sum proposals when they're for studies and when they're for construction projects. As you see, when the cost increases of the project, we end up paying architects more. That is percentage. That is not lump sum. Lump sum means that there's a fixed number, and regardless of, they have to come to you and tell you that they need to increase that number. It doesn't happen automatically.
Understand.
So, but I will get them to write that out.
Thank you.
Great. Any additional questions? We'll include this as individual inclusion. All right, thank you, Mr. Kippenbrock. Again, thank you, and Mr. Gastro for your work on this. Excited that we're at that section 4. I would remind you also, though, that I've asked you to forward some names for the community advisory team to Superintendent Garrison. So if you haven't had the opportunity to do some of that, please do. I know several of us have already sent some names. You can just kind of keep that master list and work with SHP once our contract is.
I want to thank you for the reminder, because I have received some from a few board members, but I don't know the timeline when the committees will start meeting, and I don't want to, I don't want to.
Tom, can I just make one last point before we please? I just wanted to point out, because there have been some questions about the cost of the master plan process, and is that money well worth spending on that? And I'll just point out that we just approved scope that identifies $169,000 worth of architectural effort. We're postponing, but we know we don't have money to do that work. So we're just throwing that effort out the door. So we just spent the same amount tonight because costs increased and we had to reduce scope on the high school project. So why do you do the master plan? So that you don't bite off more than you can chew. To your point, you say, oh, we can do X, Y, and Z, right? Because we got money. And then you get halfway through designing X, Y, and Z, and turns out you can only afford X and Y. But you've paid that firm to design Z for you, and now you don't get it, and that money goes down the drain. So if we can do a little better job planning and saying, these are our priorities, then I think we can save that 169, and this study pays for itself.
Great points you made, Mr.
One
Simpson.
more thing. As I was looking at the fee again, I was looking over the reimbursable expenses. Is that separate from the fee? So where the fee is 167, and it says that they can get reimbursed items, is that above and beyond the 167?
Great question. So reimbursable would mean like we have them come to a meeting, they'll invoice us 10% is done, and then under reimbursements, they'll say, we drove there 4 times at 50 or 65 cents a mile and printed 10 drawings that you asked us to print. And so we pay for that separately. And they estimated at 3,000. So if they go above 3,000, we can just say, hey, what's going on? Could you?
And that's for the entire project?
That's for the entire project. But we will pay, just because they say estimated 3,000 doesn't mean it caps there. They keep reimbursing, and we've got to, kind of say, hey, print less stuff for us because we don't want to pay for this, right? But we pay for everything they do, whether it's mileage or printing.
Okay.
Most of the things happen.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Would anyone like to report off the consent agenda? Not is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I can second.
Thank you. Call roll, please.
Mr. Gastright?
Yes.
Ms. Edelin?
Yes.
Ms. Huff?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Haggard?
Yes. We have no individual approval items tonight. There's no addendum agenda. I believe we have a report of the attorney. You want to save that for?
Oh,
Is that correct?
yeah. Just 2 things. One, on a lighter note, I just wanted to extend a sincere thank you to the board for approving our contract. On a personal note, I think one of my first jobs was for Covington Independent School District in their summer youth program when I was 14 years old. So it's kind of very, very interesting to now be back here, and I happily am. So just on that note, I want to say thank you. And then I will be calling the board to enter into an executive session when appropriate.
Any board member discussion? Anything to discuss? Mrs. Huff?
I don't know why, but I've had several phone calls in the last week. They referenced our board meetings and saying that some of our board meetings are not positive. And yes, tough decisions need to be made. But as far as the community thinks, that some people think that we're toxic, and that really hurt me for somebody to say that about this board. So just wanted to remind everybody that through our discussions, even though they are tough and we disagree at times, we still need to have a professional manner if somebody out there thinks that we're toxic, because we're not. And that was it.
Thank you.
Piggyback on her comment and just say, a note of positivity. I would like to congratulate Mr. Garrison on the performance of Gleno that we heard about tonight and things like that. I think it's tremendously reassuring just to see that all these years we've heard about the systems and that we see those fruits paying off and really giving us something to be really proud of. I mean, we're proud of all of our kids, we're proud of all of our schools, but when you see outside people saying, reinforcing what we know internally, I think it's especially, I don't know, prideful. So, yeah, great job.
Mrs. Huff?
I was at the city commission meeting. Would you like to tell them why we were at the city commission meeting?
Yes, ma'am. I'll be glad to. Board Chair will allow me.
Absolutely, please.
I think the city was recognizing one of our employees, security officer, Marquis Buchanan. He had in the cafeteria, a young man was choking, and Marquis jumped into action, used a Heimlich maneuver on the kid and saved the student's life. So we thank Marquis for that. We thank the city for recognizing Marquis for his heroic, behavior. And also, I might as well close with this. We thank you, Board of Education, for your service. It's not an easy job. It takes some courage. It takes some difficult discussions at times. But Board Appreciation Month, thank you for your service.
Thank you for that. I have one thing with Superintendent Garrison's blessing. I'm trying to convene some groups who are providing summer learning and enrichment opportunities for Covington youth. You know, obviously we have a tremendous summer program in the district. There's lots of other great things happening for kids in the city. And so I'm working to convene, have all those stakeholders so we can have some conversations about how we can make things even bigger and better. The end goal for all of us would be a great, high quality, engaging activity camp, something for our kids to do from the day school that's out to the day we go back in the summer. And so we've already heard yeses from people that want to be part of that, including the City of Covington, the Housing Authority, Boys and Girls Club, Covington Classical Academy, and so we have some other asks out there too. So I asked my colleagues here, if you know anyone that's doing good work for Covington kids in the summer, please connect me. We want to invite them to that initial meeting. We're hoping to have an introductory meeting in mid-February. So, awesome. We have several upcoming events. Obviously, schools will be closed for the Dr. King holiday on Monday. Looks like we have some special basketball games coming up, including girls senior night on January the 20th, and our Grant High School recognition night on February the 12th. I know several of you will be at the COSPA conference coming up, and so I hope that that's a great event. I'll defer to our attorney to call us into an executive session.
Sure, I would just request a motion to move into executive session pursuant to KRS 61.810, subsection 1, subsection C, regarding pending or proposed litigation. No action shall be taken in executive session.
So all in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Thank you to everyone who is here tonight. As Ms. Mia mentioned, we will not be taking any action after our executive session. So we thank you for your attention and we will see you soon.